Life isn't just about pushing harder, working longer, or trying to force things into place. It's about something much deeper, something more powerful, aligning with the intelligence that created the universe itself. Think about it. Everything in this world, from the vast galaxies to the intricate design of a single cell, moves with precision, with purpose. There is an order to life, a rhythm, a divine intelligence that governs all things. And yet, so often, we forget that this intelligence is not separate from us. It is within us, guiding us, waiting for us to recognize and align with it. Most people live their lives in a state of separation, believing that they must figure everything out on their own. They wake up filled with worry, weighed down by responsibilities, carrying the burden of every decision as if they are the sole architects of their fate. But what if that's not how we were meant to live? What if instead of struggling, we learn to flow with a power greater than ourselves? This isn't about passivity. It's not about sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It's about moving with intention, with clarity, with the understanding that when we align with divine intelligence, we step into a higher state of being. We begin to operate from a place of wisdom rather than fear, from trust rather than anxiety. There is an undeniable energy that exists within and around us. Science has already proven that our thoughts generate electrical signals, that our emotions create magnetic fields, and that we are constantly influencing the world around us. But what if, instead of simply reacting to life, we intentionally tuned into the source of all creation? What if we consciously invited God into every action, every thought, every moment? When you do this, something profound happens. Life stops feeling like an uphill battle. You stop second-guessing yourself, wondering if you are making the right choices, constantly questioning if you are enough. Instead, you begin to feel guided. You start noticing synchronicities, the right opportunities appearing at the right time, the right people crossing your path. You begin to trust, not because you have all the answers, but because you know you are connected to the one who does. The shift from striving to alignment is subtle yet life-changing. Imagine walking into every situation, every challenge with the certainty that you are not alone. Imagine making decisions not from a place of fear, but from a place of divine clarity. Imagine waking up each morning with the knowing that no matter what happens, you are being led, supported, and empowered by something far greater than yourself. This is what it means to align with divine intelligence. It is the recognition that you were never meant to walk this path alone. It is the realization that when you invite God into your life, you don't lose control, you gain freedom. You step out of limitation and into limitless possibility. So today, I challenge you to shift your perspective. Instead of relying solely on your own understanding, lean into something greater. Before you act, before you speak, before you make a decision, pause, breathe, and invite God in. Because when you do, you will no longer be working against the current. You will no longer be struggling, forcing, or exhausting yourself trying to figure it all out. Instead, you will be moving with the divine flow of life, stepping into your highest potential and creating a reality far greater than anything you could have imagined on your own. And when you do that, everything changes. In every moment of our lives, we have a choice. We can choose to rely solely on our own strength, our own intellect, our own understanding, or we can choose to invite a force far greater than ourselves into everything we do. And when we make that choice, when we truly invite God into our actions, our thoughts, and our decisions, life begins to unfold in a way we never thought possible. Most people live disconnected from this truth. They wake up each day believing that everything is up to them, that they must control every outcome, that their success, their happiness, and their peace depend entirely on their own efforts. They carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, constantly striving, constantly pushing, constantly trying to figure it all out. And in that struggle, they often find themselves exhausted, frustrated, and overwhelmed. But what if we weren't meant to live that way? What if, instead of trying to force our way through life, we simply invited God into the process? What if we stopped trying to handle everything on our own and instead allowed divine wisdom to guide us? There is an intelligence that governs all things, a power that orchestrates the rising of the sun, the movement of the tides, the beating of your heart. This intelligence is not distant, it is not separate. It is available to you in every moment, waiting to be invited in. When you acknowledge this and open yourself to it, life begins to take on a different rhythm. You stop feeling like you have to force outcomes, and instead, you learn to trust the flow. You start to see that there is a plan unfolding, that things are working for you, even when you don't immediately understand how. But here's the key: God doesn't impose himself into our lives, he waits for an invitation. He waits for us to acknowledge him, to surrender our need for control, to trust that his ways are higher than our ways. And when we do, something extraordinary happens. We begin to move through life with a sense of ease, not because there are no challenges, but because we are no longer facing them alone. We begin to feel guided, as if doors that once seemed impossible to open suddenly unlock before us. We begin to experience moments of divine alignment. Meeting the right people, finding ourselves in the right place at the right time. Receiving insights that seem to come from nowhere. This is not coincidence. This is the power of invitation. When you invite God into everything you do, you shift from struggling to flowing, from uncertainty to clarity, from fear to faith. You no longer operate on your limited understanding. Instead, you tap into an infinite source of wisdom, creativity, and power. Imagine what your life would look like if before every meeting, every conversation, every important decision, you took a moment to invite God in. Imagine starting each day by saying, "God, guide me, lead me, use me." How different would your life feel? How much more peace would you experience? How many unnecessary battles would you avoid? This doesn't mean that challenges won't come. But when they do, you will approach them differently. Instead of reacting in fear or frustration, you will move with confidence, knowing that you are being guided, that you are not alone, that the same power that created the universe is working in your favor. This is not about passivity. It's not about sitting back and waiting for miracles to happen. It's about taking action from a place of alignment. It's about moving forward with faith rather than fear, with trust rather than anxiety. When you do this, you begin to notice that the right opportunities come with greater ease, that solutions appear where before there were only obstacles, that your steps are ordered in ways you could have never orchestrated on your own. And so I invite you to try it. The next time you face a challenge, the next time you stand at a crossroads, the next time you feel overwhelmed by the weight of your responsibilities, pause, breathe, and invite God in, because when you do, you will find that you are no longer carrying the burden alone. You will find that life becomes lighter, clearer, and more meaningful. You will find that in everything you do, you are being guided by something far greater than yourself. And when you truly live in that space, life will never be the same. Most people live their lives trying to control every detail, believing that if they just work harder, push further, and plan better, they can shape the outcomes they desire. They hold onto their plans with a tight grip, fearing that if they let go even for a moment, everything will fall apart. But what if that isn't the way we were meant to live? What if, instead of controlling, we learn to trust? What if we replace the need to figure everything out with the willingness to invite divine guidance? Life is unpredictable. No matter how much we try to control things, there will always be circumstances beyond our grasp. Plans shift, opportunities come and go, people change, and unexpected challenges arise. When we live with the illusion that we can micromanage everything, we set ourselves up for frustration, stress, and exhaustion. But when we shift from control to trust, something powerful happens. We step into a flow where we are no longer forcing outcomes, but aligning with them. This doesn't mean we stop taking action. It doesn't mean we stop planning or working hard. It means we no longer act from a place of fear, but from a place of faith. When we invite God into our lives, we acknowledge that there is a higher intelligence at work, a wisdom far greater than our own. We no longer carry the weight of every decision alone. We no longer stress over every detail because we know that we are being guided. Think about a time when you tried to force something to happen. Maybe it was an opportunity, a relationship, or a goal. You did everything in your power to make it work, but no matter how hard you pushed, things just wouldn't align. Now think about a time when something fell into place effortlessly, when the right door opened at the right time, when the perfect solution appeared just when you needed it. The difference between these two experiences isn't luck, it's alignment. It's the difference between striving and trusting. Trusting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing everything you can and then releasing the outcome. It means understanding that some doors don't open because they're not meant to, while others open effortlessly because they are aligned with a greater plan. It means walking forward with confidence, knowing that what is meant for you will never miss you, and what isn't meant for you will never stay. The challenge is that trust requires surrender, and surrender is difficult when we are conditioned to believe that control equals security. But real security isn't found in control, it's found in faith. It's found in the quiet knowing that no matter what happens, you are being led, you are being supported, and you are exactly where you need to be. When you let go of control and trust God, you begin to experience life differently. Instead of worrying about every decision, you start to move with greater ease. Instead of fearing the unknown, you embrace it with curiosity, knowing that even when things don't go according to your plan, they are still unfolding exactly as they should. You stop resisting and start flowing. You stop stressing and start flowing. You stop stressing and start flowing. And when you live this way, everything changes. You begin to see that you were never meant to carry the burden of control alone. You were never meant to figure everything out by yourself. You were meant to partner with the divine, to trust in a wisdom greater than your own, and to allow life to unfold in ways beyond your imagination. So the next time you find yourself grasping for control, the next time you feel anxious about the future, the next time you catch yourself trying to force an outcome, pause, breathe, and remind yourself that you don't have to have all the answers. Invite God into the process. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that what is meant for you will come in its time. And trust that when you move from control to faith, you step into a life of true freedom. Because when you do that, you are no longer living in fear, you are living in flow. Fear is the greatest barrier between us and the life we are meant to live. It keeps us small, stuck, and constantly questioning ourselves. It whispers doubt into our minds, making us believe that we are not enough, that we don't have what it takes, that we must hold on tightly to everything we have for fear of losing it. But fear was never meant to be in control. It was never meant to dictate our decisions, shape our future, or define our potential. When we invite God into everything we do, we replace fear with faith. And in that shift, everything changes. Faith is not just a word. It is a way of living. It is a conscious choice to trust in something greater than ourselves. It is the belief that even when things seem uncertain, even when the path ahead is unclear, we are being guided, protected, and led toward something greater than we can imagine. Faith thrives in uncertainty, but faith embraces it, knowing that God is already ahead of us, preparing the way. Most people allow fear to rule their lives without even realizing it. They stay in situations that no longer serve them because they are afraid of change. They hold back from opportunities because they are afraid of failure. They silence their dreams because they are afraid of what others might think. But fear was never meant to be our guide. It was never meant to make our decisions for us. When we choose faith instead, we step into a life that is limitless, free, and filled with divine possibility. Living by faith does not mean that fear disappears. It means that we no longer allow it to have the final say. It means that when fear tells us to stop, we move forward anyway, trusting that God is with us. It means that when doubt creeps in, we remind ourselves that we are not walking alone. It means that instead of letting fear dictate our choices, we surrender our worries and trust that the one who created us knows exactly what he is doing. Fear makes life feel heavy. It creates stress, anxiety, and a sense of always being one step away from disaster. But faith lifts that burden. It allows us to walk with confidence, to embrace the unknown, and to trust that even when things don't go as planned, they are still unfolding exactly as they should. Faith doesn't mean that we won't face challenges, but it does mean that we will never face them alone. The world teaches us to hold on tightly to our plans, to our resources, to our sense of control. But faith teaches us to release, to trust, to surrender. The moment we let go of fear and choose faith instead, we open ourselves to a life beyond what we thought was possible. We begin to see doors open effortlessly, opportunities arise in ways we never expected, and solutions appear exactly when we need them. This is not about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It is about understanding that we are connected to a divine intelligence that sees the bigger picture, that knows what we need before we do, that is always working for our good. When we trust in that, we stop striving, we stop stressing, and we start flowing with the rhythm of life. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you truly lived by faith instead of fear? How many opportunities would you embrace? How much joy would you experience? How much freedom would you feel if you stopped worrying about the outcome and simply trusted that you are being led? Because when you truly trust God in everything you do, fear loses its power. You begin to walk in confidence, knowing that you are supported. You begin to take bold steps, knowing that you are not alone. And you begin to experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace that comes not from having all the answers, but from knowing that you don't have to. And when you live that way, you will never look at life the same way again. Everything in this world is energy. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every intention you hold, it all carries a frequency that influences your reality. Science has already shown that our brains generate electrical signals, that our hearts create magnetic fields, and that everything we focus on has the power to shape the world around us. But beyond the science, beyond the physics of it all, there is something even greater at work. Something divine. When we invite God into everything we do, we don't just operate on our own limited energy. We align with the limitless power of creation itself. Most people live disconnected from this truth. They go through life feeling drained, stuck, or uninspired because they are operating solely on their own strength, trying to force things to happen without recognizing that they are already connected to an infinite source of wisdom and energy. They wake up feeling heavy, burdened by the weight of their worries, allowing stress to dictate their state of being. But when you shift from relying on your own energy to tapping into divine energy, everything changes. You stop feeling exhausted by life and start feeling empowered by it. God designed us not just to react to life, but to create with it. When we align with divine intelligence, we move beyond the limitations of the physical world and step into a space where miracles become possible. We stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as opportunities to grow, expand, and evolve. We begin to understand that we are not separate from the universe. We are deeply connected to it, co-creating our reality with every thought, every belief, and every action we take. But here's the key. The energy you put out determines what you attract. If you operate from a place of fear, doubt, and limitation, you will find yourself constantly struggling, constantly chasing, constantly feeling like life is working against you. But when you operate from a place of faith, gratitude, and trust, you will notice that things begin to shift in your favor. The right people show up. The right opportunities arise. Situations that once seemed impossible suddenly become effortless. This isn't coincidence. It's alignment. It's what happens when you choose to tune into the higher frequency of divine energy instead of being trapped in lower states of stress and fear. Every moment, you have the power to decide what frequency you operate from. You can choose to be weighed down by worry, or you can choose to rise above it. You can choose to live in reaction, or you can choose to live in creation. And the more you invite God into that process, the more you will see how powerful you truly are. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most alive, the most inspired, the most at peace. Those moments weren't random. They were the result of being in alignment, of allowing divine energy to flow through you rather than resisting it. The truth is, this energy is always available to you. It is not something you have to earn, and it is not something that comes and goes. It is constant, unwavering, and ready to work through you the moment you allow it to. But alignment requires awareness. It requires choosing faith over fear, gratitude over stress, and trust over control. It requires stepping back from the chaos of the world and reconnecting with the source that created it all. And when you do, you will begin to notice how much easier life becomes. Not because there are no challenges, but because you are no longer facing them alone. You will begin to see that life is not something that is happening to you, it is something that is happening through you, and you have the power to shape it in ways beyond your imagination. So take a moment to ask yourself, what kind of energy are you putting out into the world? Are you allowing stress, doubt, and fear to dictate your reality? Or are you choosing to align with the limitless energy of divine intelligence? Are you living in reaction? Or are you living in creation? Because the moment you choose to step into alignment, the moment you choose to operate from a place of faith rather than fear, you will see that life is not something to be struggled through. It is something to be created with purpose, intention, and divine power. And when you live from that place, there is no limit to what becomes possible. Life is not a series of random events. It is not a collection of coincidences or accidental occurrences. There is a divine order to everything, a higher intelligence that orchestrates the unfolding of every moment. When we recognize this, when we truly understand that nothing happens by chance, we begin to see life differently. We stop resisting. We stop doubting. We stop trying to control outcomes, and instead, we allow ourselves to flow with the rhythm of life, trusting that everything is happening exactly as it should. Most people live in a constant state of struggle because they believe they are navigating life alone. They see challenges as setbacks, delays as failures, and unanswered prayers as proof that they are forgotten. They live in frustration, always questioning why things aren't happening the way they expected, why certain doors remain closed, why the timing never seems right. But the truth is, everything is happening in divine timing. There is a plan unfolding that is far greater than anything we could orchestrate on our own. And when we align ourselves with that plan, when we invite God into every aspect of our lives, we begin to experience life as it was meant to be lived. Trusting in divine timing doesn't mean we sit back and do nothing. It doesn't mean we stop setting goals, stop working hard, or stop taking action. It means we stop forcing things to happen before their time. It means we learn to discern the difference between when we are in flow and when we are pushing against something that isn't meant for us. At least, not yet. How many times have you looked back on your life and realized that something you once wanted so badly wasn't actually meant for you? How many times have you seen that what felt like a disappointment was actually protection, or that what seemed like a delay was actually preparation? When we are in the moment, we often don't see the full picture. But hindsight reveals what faith already knows. There is always a reason, even if we don't see it yet. The key is learning to trust in the waiting. Most people become impatient in the process, thinking that if something isn't happening right now, it will never happen at all. But the waiting period is not wasted time. It is the space where growth happens, where unseen shifts take place, where everything is aligning in ways we can't yet perceive. Just because you don't see the movement doesn't mean it isn't happening. Just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it won't. Think about nature. A seed doesn't turn into a tree overnight. There is a process. Germination, growth, development, all happening beneath the surface before the first sprout ever appears. If you were to dig up the seed before it was ready, you would never see its full potential. The same principle applies to our lives. When we try to force things before their time, we disrupt the process. We act out of impatience instead of trust. But when we surrender to divine timing, we understand that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, exactly when it should. And this is where peace is found. When we truly trust in divine timing, we release the need to stress over the future. We stop worrying about when things will happen and start focusing on what we are being called to do in the present moment. We recognize that every delay has a purpose, that every closed door is guiding us towards something better, and that what is meant for us will never pass us by. So the next time you find yourself questioning the timing of your life, the next time you feel impatient or frustrated because things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like, take a step back. Breathe. Remind yourself that you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where you need to be. And when the time is right, when everything has aligned the way it is meant to, what is meant for you will arrive in ways beyond anything you could have imagined. Because when you trust in divine timing, you stop living in anxiety and start living in flow. You stop forcing and start receiving. And in that space, you discover what it truly means to live with faith, with peace, and with absolute certainty that everything is happening not just for you, but through you exactly as it should.